We will now go to public hearing.
Ken Pans is not here.
He'll be here very soon. He's quoted.
Fall apart.
I don't want to start until Ken Pans is here.
Okay.
Why don't we do
So the night knows the
But Jeremy, were you going to announce the fire vote, the commissioner vote?
Well, it's not, they're still voting.
I never were going to announce that it's happening. I was going to announce that in public. We heard, but if you were mentioned, I didn't need to do that.
Yes, there's a fire commissioner vote tonight, everybody. So be sure, as soon as you're done here.
6 to 9.
6 to 9, fire company 1.
Company 1.
Thank you.
So what are we doing?
Okay, my husband wants me to start, so I'm going to start,
Okay?
even though Ken Pans is not here. I'm very concerned because I made a Freedom of Information request, and I got it in a timely way, even though I'd given 14 days, and none of what I asked for was furnished. I didn't get a copy of the rules by which the town board operates. I got some kind of 5 lines saying that at some unknown date, it was voted to adopt these 5 little sentences, which doesn't show me how I can get formally on the agenda so that you know what's happening with Woodstock TV.
We don't have
No
a,
copyright
you
issue.
just, there's no document that explains that, so we
Well,
couldn't make
there
it.
surely has to be Robert's Rules of Orders. We
No,
need to know the rules by which the town board operates.
That's
I
it.
heard that there are no written rules.
that's it, you have it.
These aren't written rules.
Well,
So then we need a signed statement.
we
that there are no
somehow
written
get
rules.
along without it.
When was this resolved? It's not even
It's
dated. when it
resolved
was
each year
resolved.
at our so-called organizational meeting, so that
It
would
should
have
have
been
been
the
dated.
first
January
meeting.
2nd or 3rd?
Yeah,
Okay, it wasn't done. So we don't know how we can get before the board on the agenda and be recognized. So we
Okay.
get more than 2 minutes. Wonderful, Ken Pans is here. Okay, the low bid offer for the remodeling of the community center,
mhm,
an accounting of the expenses that went into the remodeling of the Woodstock Community Center.
mhm.
It was not there. It said somebody got a certain amount of money, but it didn't say for what. And so, you know, we're totally unsatisfied.
I'm sorry.
So we want to have a statement that this town doesn't,
It is,
board does not operate by rules.
No, what you have to understand is you asked for a document, and I signed on that thing that said everything that you asked for is what I provided, and otherwise the
Where did you
document doesn't
sign?
exist.
I see no signature.
It-
From you?
I'm sorry,
It's on the cover
cover
sheet.
sheet, yes.
You signed on the cover sheet? Then we've got no cover sheet. Where's the cover sheet?
If you want to come in tomorrow, you can get it. It's a cover sheet that we keep to show that the foil is filled.
Well, move on to the next point.
Well, the next point is none of the things were answered. The
I'm
public
sorry,
is
then the
still in
documents
dark.
don't exist.
Completely looks
Yeah.
like. Then once again, I'm going to just have to serve.
Well, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we do have rules, state rules, that govern certain actions of the town board.
It has nothing to do with our rules of
Kathy,
order.
Jeremy, once again, this is yours, so you can meditate on this.
Thank you.
That without rules, is how can a society operate?
It's just sheer anarchy and hell around here.
You have no rules? How surprising.
Joe Barton, you're up.
Okay. You failed to give us our freedom of information, and I'm just going to skip to point 3 on this. We asked for an accounting of expenses that went into the remodeling of the community center, and item for item accounting of all costs, materials, and labor that went into it. What you gave us was, oh, this guy got $1,000, this guy got $1,000, this guy got $4,000.
We didn't pay separately for materials, so it's all in the contract prices. We never got a bill for materials from any of the contractors. They submitted just bang, this is what you owe us, this is the benchmark, and this is where we're at, and that's what we paid them.
And they didn't say how much you paid for the lighting, how much you paid for the curtains for the
It's all in
theater.
their contract.
Well, I would like to see we would like to see
Oh,
copies
come to
of it.
the office, I'm very happy, because I
Of
don't
their
think you're gonna want
contract.
copies of it, 25 cents a page, because the documents altogether lift that high. You wanna come by the office, I'd be very happy to show you the contract.
Okay, I will.
But you can't take them with you unless you pay me 25 cents a page.
All right, I will, and I may come up with 25 cents a page, but I think it's pretty flaky that the town cannot know what the cost of all the different things, especially since we've been trying to tell you all the stuff that was needed at the TV station, and you turned the community center into the theater. And all the money that should have gone into the TV station to bring it up to par and to get it on the internet went into the theater. So,
There's the criticism, thank you.
and I think you guys are very flaky the way you do business, and you can't give an accounting of parts, labor, and all that to the community. You know, it sounds pretty scheming to me.
So your assessment is mortifying to us, for sure.
Iris, you're up.
Thank you.
Your assessment is what, Jeremy?
Mortifying. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Iris?
Yes, I'm mortified.
Long time no see.
Long time?
I wanted to talk about one of the things in the suggested changes for the zoning packet
Yes.
that the planning board did. I noticed in the use table that NC was split into NC1 and NC2. And I,
They always do. There was always NC1, neighborhood commercial?
yeah, no, you talked about it that way, but if you look at the use table, there's only one column, it's called NC.
Neighborhood commercial. Okay.
Yeah, so what they did was split it, one of the changes.
Our understanding was that it existed as NC1, NC2. We thought we were talking about existing NC1, NC2. We'd have to look at a map and verify, but I believe that NC1, NC2
I have the
were
use
separate.
table right here, there's only one column,
But
and
there are
it's
two-
NC.
But if you look at a map of districts, I believe you'll see two districts.
Yes,
But I think that the uses are
but
the
the
same
uses,
in
exactly.
each.
So what they did was, they split the NC column into NC1 and NC2, so that they could change some things,
Mhm.
so that everything that applies to
So they could
NC2.
propose changes to something.
Yes, so that they could propose some changes. So, I went through the use table, and one caught my
And where
eye.
did those scheming devils come
You're
from?
right, you're right. So, right now, for NC, which applies to NC1 and NC2,
Mhm.
about hotel and motel development,
Mhm.
special use permit,
Right.
okay. And now with the split,
Mhm.
they made it so that you can have NC2, special use permit.
Mhm.
But they've got an X now, which is not permitted at all in NC1.
Uh-huh.
So this
that's
is for
what they
motels
suggest.
and hotels.
Motel and hotel, okay. So my reaction to that was,
I hope you don't have a bunch, because you're almost out of time.
okay, R15,
Mhm.
the R15
Yeah.
is residential.
Yeah.
You can put a hotel next door to me, but not in NC1. That to me was very unfair.
So wait, so R15 permits hotels?
Yes, yes. And so for them to, and I get it, they don't want it over there, I get that. But it's unfair.
We'll look at that, Iris.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so to me, well, I still have a little time. To
Oh,
me,
really don't, but-
NC1, if you're going to restrict it in NC1, if you agree, and I hope you don't with that change, then you should really take a look at R15 because we got a lot less acreage. And it's not fair. We're residential and that is commercial. So please take a really hard look at that.
Can I speak to that for just a moment? Okay, what the planning board did is we didn't try to boil the ocean, we didn't try to solve all the problems of the world. We were just focused on the four columns of the use table, NC1, NC2.
And the
like-
LI and the S, I get it.
Right,
I get it.
so the planning board, I'm sure, will be looking at more things, but they were focused on those four areas. They weren't trying to solve everything at once. We never would have gotten a proposal forward if we tried to solve everything. So it's very good input as far as things to look at in the future, but the fact that we haven't corrected it on another column doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't make it right in the NC column, so.
Well, but unless you look at everything together, you don't want to impact. So, maybe that change can wait until you really figure out the impacts of it.
Gee, we're going to adopt that tonight.
Brandon Steele?
That's why we didn't put it on the agenda.
You thought I might not come, you didn't say
Start
it.
the, yeah, don't start the clock yet, they'll start speaking. Last town board meeting, I was here speaking among, here on Public Be Heard, and my discussion was interrupted by the subject of my interruption and discussion, Paul Schultes Jr. He came up, he identified himself to me. Before this time, with my limited vision, I was not able to assert. Now I can assert that Mr. Paul Schultes Jr. on numerous occasions over the 14 years that we have been subjected to the excessive noise in violation of the still standing noise ordinance of the town. That he has approached us and our house, he has trespassed on our property on numerous occasions and acted in a threatening manner on several occasions, to the point where I had to close my back door so that I didn't have to confront someone who I didn't know and was incapable of defending myself against while she was not at home. After that, and after some discussion where some of my time was taken by Schultes Jr., Jeremy, you reached over and I believe you kind of shoved Bill in the arm and said, oh, well, these laws do not apply to lawnmowers. That's a stab in the back that I take personally. Because I moved to this town and I paid my taxes faithfully, and for 14 years I have been literally shaken out of my house 4 days a week during the spring, summer, and fall. I have a copy of a newspaper response that I wrote after this large article occurred where Mr. Schultes said that he wanted to deal with what constitutes a business and tenants. Antennas have nothing to do with this issue of the Airbnbs or what is a hotel or whatever. Antennas, I consider, after he said that we should have had to gone before the planning board is harassment. We went through the building department, we did exactly everything that the town said, and we should be grandfathered from any and all of Mr. Schultes' personal vendetta. You try listening to your constituents for a change.
That's it.
I just want to say, Randy, that if you're taking this personally, I'm very sorry.
I do.
No, I'm serious. I hope nothing personal comes between you and I mean that.
Well,
So,
there are lots of cases
Yeah, I
where you can do
understand.
one
Yes,
thing
well,
for me.
perhaps and maybe not. But all I'm saying is, I'm very sorry if you take this personally.
I do.
Okay, recognized. Thank you. Before continuing, we have a volunteer for the town, Mary Burke, who's been on boards for many, many years and very helpful to the town. And her husband died in the last week, her husband James.
Who?
And,
Mary
James
Burke?
Mary Burke's husband
Mary Burke's
James,
husband.
yeah. And so I would just like the record to reflect the town board's deep feeling of condolence to Mary and her family for the passing of James Burke. James, years ago, was very helpful and various, and a friend of various departments of the town, including the highway department. And I know there are members of that department, including our highway superintendent, who are going to miss him. So if the record showed that, I appreciate it very much.
He was also a member of Company One and an assistant chief for a good number of years as well.
Okay, well, thanks for that.
Last week, I'm not sure exactly which day.
The 30th. It was November 30th. He passed.
November 30th?
November 30th.
Okay.
I didn't hear about it until last night.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty well.
it missed the paper. Mary tried to get it in the paper, but it didn't miss the paper last week.
So with that, any announcements? Yes, Jay. Jay, I didn't even look at you when I said yes, Jay.
I have one.
Oh, sorry, I crave the opportunity to make an announcement. Our reprehensible High Sheriff of Ulster County, Paul Van Blocker, had the, let's say, the bad taste earlier this year to install an ID location at for one group of people in the county, the poor people, the close to and actually disenfranchised people. And he was checking those people at the office where they go for state-sponsored help, food and so forth. In any event, he had the bad taste to do that, which kind of got eventually overturned by the legislature. But as I'm sure everybody knows by now, he's gone further. He's becoming Trump-like with this thing about everybody that has the legal right to carry a handgun should carry it at all times. Police chiefs are trying to do what they can to get guns off the streets. And here's the sheriff, in my opinion, flying in the face of law and order. For somebody that has been in combat, I dread the idea of us sitting here at a meeting and somebody walking in looking for trouble and half a dozen people in the public here being armed. And the insanity of this is just incomprehensible. In any event, I'll finish up. There is a petition going around that I signed a while ago asking the sheriff to change his mind or change his job. And so I hope that people look for it and sign it. He's an elected official. He can't be really reprimanded, as far as I understand, by the legislature. Though in the case of the ID business, they did institute some change in what he was doing over there. But in any event, I'm embarrassed and I'm ashamed and I'm frightened by the actions of this sheriff. I hope we all remember it in the next election.
Well, I've not to disagree necessarily with your points there, Jay. I have known Paul for many, many years, and I've mostly found him to be a very sensible, thoughtful person. I don't agree with him on this issue, of course. To me, however, the issue and how he chose to address it is reflective of a deeper and, in my opinion, more serious issue in our country. And so, for instance, we talk about signing petitions calling upon this and calling upon that. The petition I will sign is the one that says, I will not live in fear.
Okay,
And that's the petition I will sign.
yeah.
I think that people responsible for public safety are probably all over the map about what we should be doing now. And I think we're going to probably hear even more interesting ideas than the one advanced by our sheriff. But for now, I'm going to give him a pass. I'm going to give most people a pass who come up with, in my opinion, with kind of extreme ideas. Because it's reflective of fear. And I think the real message to all these people is just refuse to live in fear. And that's the petition that I'll sign.
Well, the sheriff ought to be a leader among those who refuse to live in fear. And his action, his pronouncement, to me, is just a scream of fear, of, my God, we've got to get more guns on the street. It's, we disagree.
Yes.
Though I also refuse to live in fear
Mm-hmm.
of the law or anybody else.
Well, we knew that. Well, yes.
Just a point of information on what Jay was just talking about. I think it needs to be considered also that Sheriff Larkham's statements were not only an issue here in the Hudson Valley or where he is sheriff in Ulster County, but these were picked up by the national news media and spread all over the country as major news. Sheriff Ben Larkham of Ulster County says we should all be armed to protect each other. This, I think, puts Ulster County in a very bad light because, in effect, even if he wasn't intending to, he was speaking for Ulster County on a nationwide platform. And I, for one, as a citizen of Ulster County, like Jay, reject that living in fear and was embarrassed by the fact that these comments were spread nationwide.
Well, I think there are counties around this country who are far more embarrassed by their sheriffs than we are by ours, but point well taken. So, okay, so I'd like to go to the business, if I may.
Can I jump in with a comment on the same
Oh, sure,
subject?
Joe, absolutely.
I don't like Sheriff Van Larkin at all, but I'm a pro-gun rights, even though I don't own a gun and have never owned a gun and probably never will own a gun. I think our First Amendment right under the Constitution that
Second Amendment.
that the people should have a right to bear arms, and that's our constitutional right. And I don't think that should be thrown out because people don't like that he said that people should have a right to carry arms. Now, I agree with Jay that people should not carry arms in public places like this, to meetings like this, or in schools or places like that. I mean, there are certain places that arms should not be allowed. But the First Amendment of our Constitution gives the right of the people to be armed. And if only
Second Amendment.
Second Amendment. And if only the police are armed and the government are armed, that's tyranny, and that I'm against completely.
Thank you. Okay. I'd like to offer the following resolution, filled with acronyms. Whether the reliable transportation infrastructure is vital for, this is, by the way, was something that the highway superintendent recommended for adoption. Whereas a reliable transportation infrastructure is vital for the safety of New York's traveling public and its economy, and whereas 85% of New York's roads and bridges are maintained by local governments, and whereas despite well-timed and targeted preventative maintenance treatments, the age and condition of many of our locally owned transportation assets means that they are beyond preservation and in need of much more costly rehabilitation and reconstruction. And whereas estimates by the State Comptroller of DOT and independent studies show a large portion of road mileage is deteriorating and many bridges in the state are rated structurally deficient and functionally obsolete. And as the State Comptroller estimates that there will be $89 billion in unmet local infrastructure needs over the next 20 years. And as the New York City Association of Town Superintendents and Highways commissioned its own 15-year analysis that indicates an annual funding gap of $1.3 billion for the local system, excluding New York City alone. And as funding for our local system has been far short of what is needed, and we've fallen further and further behind in maintaining the vast and aging transportation infrastructure over this long period with severe consequences for condition ratings. And as the New York State Consolidated Local Street and Highway Program provides essential funding for every municipality in the state as part of the New York State Department of Transportation Capital Program. And as in the early 1990s, the governor and the legislature created the dedicated Highway and Bridge Trust Fund to pay for the New York State Department of Transportation Capital Program and the dedicated Mass Transit Fund to assist with the Metropolitan Transportation Authority and other transit systems capital programs. And whereas when I gotta go back now and find the dedicated Highway and Bridge Trust Fund was created, it was agreed that the New York State Department of Transportation and the Metropolitan Transit Authority 5-year capital programs would be similar in size and would be negotiated concurrently. And whereas through 2005 to 2009, both 5-year capital programs were similar in size and adopted within months of each other. And whereas in 2010, the Executive and Legislature broke traditional parity and enacted a 5-year capital program for the Metropolitan Transit Authority, but not the Department of Transportation. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Woodstock calls upon the governor and the state legislature to make additional state funding and resources available at levels that accurately reflect the critical needs of local roads and bridges, increase the consolidated highway improvement program funding, in the 2016-17 state budget. And be further resolved that the town of Woodstock calls upon the governor and members of the state legislature to fully fund and submit a new New York State Department of Transportation 5-year transportation capital plan. And be it further resolved that the town of Woodstock calls upon the governor and members of the state legislature to recognize the equality of roads, bridges, and transit by restoring funding equality between and Metropolitan Transit Authority and the New York State Department of Transportation 5-year programs, and by voting on the plan simultaneously. And be it further resolved, the copy of this resolution shall be sent to the Assemblyman Kevin Cahill and Senator George Pomodoro.
Second.
All in favor?
You know, the New York Times today announced or reported that oil had reached its lowest level in a long time at $48 a barrel. And Kingston Freeman said the price of gas is going to reach a new low in New York. And this is probably a good time, you know, for the legislature to consider increasing the gas tax. Because the gas tax is where we get the money to actually fund the repairs of the highways and the bridges at the state level, and probably for this. So if they're looking for another source of money, you know, now is probably a good time to consider a gas tax increase because the price of gasoline and oil is so low.
I absolutely agree with you, Ken. And I wish the feds would consider it too. You know, the feds had a plan some years ago to put, I think it was like a 50-cent a gallon tax, and it would be offset from income tax. So it's, you know, as a whole, the federal government wouldn't be collecting more tax. But the idea would be to, you know, to keep up the price of gasoline so that it's not such a, you know, so cheap and ending up in our atmosphere.
I absolutely disagree. It needs to be said again, the military budget that this country maintains, bigger than 10 other countries combined, needs to be trimmed drastically. Our military forces are the strongest in the world, our weapons are fearsome, and cutting some of that money for killing and destruction would give us plenty of money to take care of our needs here at home.
Well, I wasn't reading so much of taking care of our needs as making gas a little bit more expensive so that people weren't so wasteful with it. Anyway,
Wasteful?
with gasoline, yeah. I think people are very wasteful with energy, don't you? Anyway,
Well, I agree with Mark, though. I mean, there's so much infrastructure all through the state that needs to be tended to. Look at what they're doing with the Tappan Zee Bridge. They're building a whole new bridge down there. The Beacon Bridge has been under construction for a year or two. I think that somehow more money has to be allocated for infrastructure. I'm not saying
we're a
we're...
little town.
What?
We're a little town. We
I know.
replaced the bridge last year.
I
we
know,
have two this
exactly,
this year.
yeah, I mean, when you start, besides, yeah, look at what we're doing, and I think that money has to come from somewhere. I'm not gonna debate where it's coming from, but we need to get more money. I agree with Mike totally about this whole infrastructure stuff.
Well, the money we spend on bridges, we don't spend on roads.
Yeah,
You know, it's sort of a rural sum
right,
game.
or other things, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, be it resolved to transfer from the Woodstock Water District operating 2015 budget to the Waterloo Capital Project .078 the sum of $1,848.75, and be further resolved as resolution shall take effect immediately.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved to appoint Clark Kimball, part-time fire inspector, at $20.87 per hour, effective December 9, 2015.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to schedule the 2015 year-end meeting for 6 p.m. Thursday, December 31 at the town offices.
Second.
I realize this is an inconvenience for some of you. I thank you for indulging me. It's just out of the town during the day, and it's as soon as I can make it done. All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved to schedule the annual organization, yes?
You don't need it 11.
Now, let's just talk about this for a second before you make the motion.
Mm-hmm.
3 of you need to be sworn in.
Yeah,
So do you want to have a swearing in at 10 o'clock? With the
that's what I was
meeting?
thinking. We would just
With the meeting to
get
follow.
sworn at with the meeting
Okay.
to follow, yeah.
So
See
if
if
you
we
want to,
can't get the judge up here.
yeah.
We won't do the big hullabaloo thing.
No cookies?
Oh, we'll have cookies.
You're a man after my own heart, Ken.
There's no cookies, I'm not coming.
Some of us are old hat, you know, it's like,
So,
Listen, you know, we can make it later in the day if you want.
no,
No,
let's do it and get it over with.
I'm just saying, you want to make a meeting for 10:30 or 11, do the swearing in at 10 o'clock, or?
Well, we'll schedule it for 10.
Okay,
5
then.
minutes earlier.
Okay.
And get sworn at. Be it resolved to schedule the annual organizational meeting for Friday, January 1 at 10 a.m. at the town offices. In favor?
Aye.
Residual full-time police officers out on disability, therefore be it resolved to appoint Thomas Sickler, full-time temporary police officer for a period up to 90 days effective December 9, 2015, at the rate of $22.49 per hour. In favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the holiday celebration of December 24, 2015, including use of the village green in the Woodstock Town Hall beginning at approximately 2:30 p.m. and ending at approximately 7:30 p.m. be permitted by the town in accordance with the plan accepted by the Town Safety Committee.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved to authorize the supervisor to sign the First Amendment to the tower lease with Crown Communications LLC and T-Mobile Northeast LLC.
Discussion.
Yes.
Would you please explain to the public what the First Amendment is?
No, I'd be very happy to. It guarantees free speech. Okay, so we have a lease with T-Mobile. They have an apparatus, and we've had it for several years now on our tower. And they want to upgrade their equipment to include the 700 megahertz bandwidth. This is to improve signal reliability and data transfer speeds for their network subscriber. To do this, T-Mobile will need to make the following physical changes to their existing antenna facility on the tower. Swapping 2 existing panel antenna with 2 new panel antennas, removing 4 existing TMA tower-mounted amplifiers, and replacing with 2 new tower-mounted amplifiers, and adding 2 bias T diplexers. Now you know what they are, of course. The addition of 2 new diplexers triggers a rental increase of $43.04 per month, to be effective the first day of the month following the full execution of this amendment. Now, if you want a graphic of what it is that they are proposing to do, that's it. That's their existing.
Yep.
And these are the little gizmos that they're swapping out.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's much better than the...
And so I had the, of course, this whole agreement vetted, this amendment vetted by our attorney for the town, who finds nothing fishy or screwy about it. Is that enough?
Yes, definitely.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yes.
Point of information on the previous discussion regarding infrastructure tax, gas taxes, and whatever. Our crumbling infrastructure has not just been occurring in the last year or so when the gas prices have been going down. I'd like to know why and where all of the money that was collected on the taxes when we were paying approximately $4 a gallon for a number of years, where did all that money go? All of a sudden, now that the gas prices are going down, so thus the tax revenue is going down, we're talking about having to put a tax on consumption of gasoline. But all of those higher gases, when the gas was 3 times the price that it is now, where did all that money go, and why was our infrastructure crumbling at that point?
The federal tax per gallon has remained constant now for a number of years. So whether gas is $4 or $1 a gallon, the federal tax is the same.
I think the state is.
The only thing that changes is the sales tax. So
But that
the
was
state
so high.
collected more sales tax on the gasoline.
But the state also has a gas tax as well.
Well, and a gas tax, but I think that's also been fixed.
And I think that's.
I think that's per gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whether you pay $4 or $1, you pay the same amount of sales.
Yeah, the feds and the
That's
state
what-
collected the same
I
tax.
mean, that
State
money was
excise
going to their
tax
own
was a
producers.
percentage of the cost of gas per
That's not
gallon.
my understanding. It
In
was
New
fixed.
York State, in New Jersey, I believe it's per gallon, it stays the same.
New Jersey, they don't have a state tax on their gasoline, which is why it's cheaper in New
That's why
Jersey.
it's crazy.
So it's constant.
That's why everybody drives there to get gas. That also deprives New York State.
They also pump it for you.
But Randy, when oil was, $100 a barrel and now it's $48 a barrel,
Yeah.
that's not, that money's going to the people who are producing the oil. Not to us, they're the ones who are
I
setting the
remember some
prices.
things.
Well, that's true, but I just wanted to know why the low price of gas was used as a reason to slap a consumption tax on it when there was all of this price hike before, and still our infrastructure was going to hell.
Well, the reason I suggested it was to get more money so we could spend it on state infrastructure.
So, now we have a real crucial decision here. We have some volunteers for various boards, and when do we want to interview them? Thursday or Friday would be best for me. What's a
Thursday.
good time?
How about
Thursdays
Monday
for
or
you?
Tuesday?
No, no,
Say that again?
How about Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, too late.
I finally have
It has to be Thursday or Friday.
Can't make them.
I'll be on.
I hope you don't mind my saying this, I don't think I'm giving anything away, because it's all public information. But there are 2 vacancies coming up on that board that you have an interest in. And the 2 incumbents have expressed an interest in staying.
But you told me, Jackie, that
I
even
thought
so,
there was-
that there'd still be a seat.
I thought there's a vacancy.
they're
Is there a
short,
third
they're
vacancy?
short, they're short
Oh,
one.
they are, oh, they are
Yeah.
short ones. Oh, excuse me, take it
Yes.
all back. Well, you better be here Thursday.
I can't.
Why not? What's the excuse?
Well, why don't we?
You obviously don't really want it. We'll interview her after the meeting.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll interview tonight.
Sit right there.
Tonight.
Don't go anywhere.
That's a good idea, but
Yes.
I found out the closing on
We're
Thursday.
Yes.
What time are you
Yes,
thinking
good.
of doing
So
it on Thursday?
What do you say, guys?
We're all here now.
Yes, but we don't have all our
Candidates.
candidates here now. I could call them tomorrow, beg, plead, and wheedle, and cajole them.
Yes.
I'm sure I could get Howard Harris here in about 4 minutes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Hi, Howard.
Tell them to come on Friday.
Yeah, he was just voting with the rest of us, I saw him.
Yeah, right.
You want to say like 4 o'clock Thursday?
Yes.
4 o'clock? 4 o'clock Thursday,
Thursday.
everybody?
This Thursday?
Yes.
That's not gonna work for me. I have a granddaughter duty.
Are
You can
ready
bring
to
her
see
with you if you
it?
want.
I'm sure she would really enjoy that.
But how late do you have the granddaughter duty?
My grandson
Well,
loved
so
this.
wait, Ken, so let me ask you, does Thursday not work at all for you?
Earlier would work.
Like 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock is fine.
2 o'clock?
That might be tough getting
Carrots.
candidates if they're working.
Hmm.
I think I've met your granddaughter, Ken, and she probably could give her a book or a electronic and,
Or if you've got 4 people that can make it.
well, Jeremy, will I be attending that, Jeremy?
Oh, yes, you should.
So 4 o'clock would be better for me. If it's on at 2 o'clock, it would be difficult because that would be the middle of my workday. I think 4 o'clock is much more doable.
One can be made for planning board and the ZBA, actually.
I'm sorry, one can be,
Made for the planning board, there's a vacancy there,
yeah.
and one can be made immediately for the ZBA.
Oh, I see, right, yes. You mean at that meeting?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, so what do we want to do, guys?
Let's shoot for 4 o'clock on Thursday and see what happens. See if you can get some people there. And you can't do later.
No,
It was
I
like
mean,
5 or...
it's 4 o'clock until whatever.
Listen, if you can get someone here earlier, we could schedule it earlier.
Yeah, actually.
I think all 3 boards have a vacancy, the planning board, WEC, and ZBA.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll schedule the meeting for 2 o'clock,
Yeah.
but we just might not call it to order until 4,
4.
depending on whether or not
Right.
these people can
That's
show.
fair.
Okay, 2 o'clock, we'll start.
Okay, so be it resolved to schedule a special meeting of the Woodstock Town
Yeah, 3 o'clock.
Board for December 10 at 2 p.m.
Second.
where a motion will be entertained to go into executive session to interview candidates for the various volunteer boards.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So let's make it clear. We're scheduling a meeting for 2 o'clock, but depending on whether or not I can get people there, at 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock, will determine when we actually call the meeting to order,
Or any time in between.
or any time in between.
I say just bring pizza and we'll all be satisfied.
Yeah, bring pizza, right. Right. Okay, that's all our business.
Well, I have a,
Yes, go ahead,
I
Ken.
have a few light announcements.
Okay.
not heavy ones. Last summer, the WEC sponsored a program called Solar Action, which was implemented by the Woodstock Transition, and they held a variety of meetings introducing people to solar power. They had some contractors who then went out and talked to the people and entered bids. And that program finally finished up about November 30th. So just to report the results, which are actually pretty good to the other towns, they got 217 families to enroll, meaning people who signed up to have an audit or an evaluation made of their home. As a result of those evaluations, there were 84 proposals, and of those 84 proposals, 32 actually signed contracts. And that results in about a total solar kilowatt hour result of about 200,000 kilowatt hours from solar, and the average system size is about 6 kilowatts. So that was a pretty good effort by Transition, Woodstock, and WEC, and it's they really did a fabulous job. The second thing is I gave a short presentation at the public hearing for the REV, and as part of the preparation for that, I went into the EPA website to confirm what our carbon content is in this area. The EPA has split up the whole country into regions, and each region they go through and they account for all the generators in that region, and they add up the total amount of carbon dioxide those generators produce. So it's a big database, and we're in the upstate New York region. And when I did the last report, we were at 546 pounds of CO2 per megawatt hour. This current report, we're at 409 pounds per kilowatt hour, a significant reduction.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, it is so significant, the upstate New York region has the lowest CO2 content produced by generators in the country.
Wow.
Why is that?
Well, why is that?
Yeah, no, I'm serious, why is that?
Well, in upstate New York, we have a lot of nuclear, we have a lot of hydroelectric. What really made the difference between the current report, which just came out in October, was that the amount of coal went from 15.3% of the electricity produced down to 5%.
Wow.
And so there's an uptick in natural gas, but the big difference was must have been the closing of a coal plant out there, which really made a difference.
So do those wind farms that make any difference?
Well, that's all the renewables, which would be the wind and the solar, mostly wind, went up 1%. They went up from 4.3% to 5.4%.
Okay.
So, but I mean, it was rather astounding to see this come down so much in 1 year,
Yeah.
and to find out that we are the lowest area in the country.
Well, we can look down our noses at everyone else.
Can I just ask you, you said that you went to a public hearing for,
It was sponsored by the New York PSC, and it was a public hearing on the REV,
which is,
Renew the Energy Vision.
okay.
Do those figures include what flows into our region from western states?
Nothing flows into our region from western states.
Oh, yes, they do.
Well, I have another announcement. If you've been out to the parking lot, you may have noticed a structure being built alongside the entrance to the Como Trails, and this is the Como kiosk. This has been under planning like for 2 years, where people went out and they visited every kiosk within a 100-mile radius to find out what Woodstock should have. And a couple of months ago, they finally decided on a design, thought it was going to cost them about $7,000 to do that. And they initiated a fundraising program. And now the process is pretty much over. Lauren Rose and Jim Henson had built this kiosk out there, and it is gorgeous. I mean,
It's
the
beautiful.
stonework is
Right,
just perfect,
actually.
the-
Yeah,
everything, you know, I told Lauren that, you know, if he'd been paid, he couldn't do that good a job, because he couldn't have spent the time. And they raised all the money they needed. There were a couple of substantial contributions, but they were able to raise all the money. The only thing that's left now to be done is to create the information panels and mount those, but otherwise, the kiosk is done. It was a terrific job by Lauren and Jim.
yeah, I agree. It's beautiful.
It is
It
beautiful.
looks like it grew there.
Yeah,
Glad I gave them my donation.
yeah.
Very nice.
We got my lottery tickets here somewhere. Okay, thanks, Ken. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
No?
Yes, so what do you want to do?
Good, good. Oh, yes. Motion to go into executive session for the purpose of interviewing the candidate for the ethics board.
Second.
Okay. Everyone with the exception of Iris? Thank you.
Everyone
You can
else?
stay if you want, Laura.
Yes, I will, I shall.
You need anything signed there?
Would you like
Good
to
to see
after
you.
say